The one topic I'm asked to cover most when planning one-on-one sessions with students is, how do I create my own flower composition? Well, today, friends, we're going to tackle the 6 secret elements that make developing a quickly satisfying composition way easier. Sure, the rules of composition help, but mastering a small arsenal of flower views and fillers is absolutely key. There's something to be said for the power of a quick sketch before you dive into the full-blown artwork. But when you don't know what to sketch, you get discouraged quick. There are 6 key flower types or views that I paint again and again to build a reliable composition. And we're going to go ahead and tackle each one today, one step at a time. Today I'm using my Art for Joy's Sake palette, a 1/2-inch dagger, and a 10x13 block of Academy watercolor paper cold press. The first flower view that I feel you should master is the top down. Working with a wet brush on dry paper, and let's get out that 1/2-inch dagger. Curve side down, load up that brush with your favorite color. I'm using pink and a little bit of red, double loading, press, even pressure, and then as you get towards the middle or the bottom of that petal, you want to start lifting up. You could even add a little twist, rinse your brush a little bit, go on the other side of that stroke you just made and widen it. And then load up again, upstroke, press, drag and lift, and then just repeat to get a nice symmetrical petal shape. I like my petals to be a little uneven on the outer edge, but that's just me. We're going to keep going around this invisible center using that press and drag, press and lift. And I want each of these petals to be a little bit different in their shape and their width and their length. But we're basically creating a flower as if you were looking straight down on top of it. So you're seeing all the petals, you're seeing the center in its full loveliness. And this is one of the most kind of classic views of a flower. And honestly, friends, it's one of the most effortless to paint, all things considered. Added a little bit of yellow in that center. Let's take a look at those last 3 petals one more time. My brush is always with the curved side down towards the page with this particular flower. I'm loading up with a variety of pink, creamy, soft pink, or a red. Sometimes I'm using all 3. I love to double and triple load my brush, and I'm really just creating kind of an edited teardrop shape. Each of these petals just being a little bit different. When I want to edit the shape even more, I use the tip of my brush. I find myself using this view a lot as my focal point in a floral composition. If you want to know more about how I build leaves and filler greenery, you're going to want to watch this video. I have it linked below. It's definitely worth checking out. With these leaves compared to the petals and the brush strokes that I'm using, really the same type of technique, same type of brush stroke. I'm just not bringing the petals to a point where I am with the leaves. Next up, the 3/4 view, and this is the one that scares folks the most, but it's so important to get this one under your creative comfort belt. Gosh, I have a weird way of saying things. Hopefully that made sense. And hopefully you're having a good time so far. And if you are, I would be so appreciative if you give this video a boop, friends. That's what I call a like. It's just a thumbs up. Let me know I'm doing a good job, and it honestly helps others find this channel. 2 things to remember with the 3/4 view. It's all about those front-facing petals, making them looking like they're curling up to the sky or out towards the viewer. And the other really important thing is to use kind of short strokes as you move around the flower. And once you have those 2 things down, yeah, you'll be in good shape. Let's look into how to do this specifically. Our strokes here are not going to be nearly as long, so essentially not as much dragging. You're going to be doing a press, really short drag, and then a quick lift. And the dagger brush really comes in handy here because you can kind of see the shape of the brush head, the bristles and how they come together. It's already the perfect petal shape. All right, curved side of the brush down towards the paper, load up your favorite color, and just do a little press and wiggle, and I put a little dot above it just to kind of get my bearings. Realize quickly that it doesn't make sense for it to be a dot. Now, watch this. Don't try to paint along the first time. You're going to start to see how I'm building the front of this flower. That first stroke that I put down was my front-facing petal that's curling up towards the sky. And as I build around on the left and the right and the top, those petals are facing either almost straight out to the left or right and almost straight up to the sky along the top. And as you can see, I left room for the center of my flower. I'm adding in a little bit of darkness. I just added a little bit of purple and brown to my red. I mean a little bit, mostly red, a little bit of brown, a little bit of purple. And that's creating kind of a little sense of dimension. And then of course, once that's a little more dry, I'm going to go ahead and add the yellow. Now, it might make you feel more comfortable and more secure to start with the yellow center and build around it. The only thing I would suggest if you do it that way is to let that little splotch of yellow that you're going to start with, let it dry before you move on to the petals. Now, of course, I went in and added some greenery. Again, just another version of press, drag, and lift, but today really isn't about greenery. But as you can see, I changed the length of my drag and the speed of my lift to change the result or the look of the leaf. And sometimes I just added a press and lift at a few different angles around one area of the stem. And that gave me a really cool little filler. A 3/4 view flower can be really intimidating, but let me tell you what, it can make also an amazing focal point in your compositions, but it can also make a really cool secondary focal point, if you will, tucked up right next to that top-down view flower. Okay, if the 3/4 view stressed you out, you're gonna love this one, the purely side view. I use this all the time and it is perfection for balancing out a composition. Now, I bet you're wondering, this is all great, Christy, these cute peonies or whatever these flowers are, but how do we use these techniques and apply them to different flowers? How does it actually work? Well, stick around. I'm definitely gonna let you know. Okay, curved edge down towards the paper. Again, load up your favorite color and create some similar petal shapes to that top-down flower. The only difference is that the petals on the outer edge of this side view are going to get smaller and smaller. So your centralmost petal is going to be your largest. So yeah, essentially you're creating a fan of sorts of petals. Now I'm going right in, the paint is still wet, and adding a little bit of that darkness that I mixed up before. So lots of red or pink in this case, a little bit of brown, a little bit of purple. And I'm just tapping it in at the base to give me some oomph and depth. Oh gosh, the greenery is really important. I actually have a really cool playlist all about greenery fillers that I think is a great companion to this video. So I'm gonna link that one below. So again, friends, this one is so fun and effortless when it compares to that 3/4 view. Big petal in the middle and then descending shape-sized petals on the side. It's a big old petal fan and it's going to serve you so well in your compositions. I mean, just imagine you can have it facing up towards the sky in a composition. You can have a few of them clustered together, connected by thin, wispy vines. Oh, just delightful. This is all well and good, you might say, but I don't want to paint peony-looking flowers. I want to paint a tulip or an iris or daisies. So how does all this apply? The good news is this. It's basic perspective that I'm kind of deriving this very simple pared down technique and formation of flowers from. So honestly, it's going to apply regardless of what type of flower you're painting. The one exception might actually be a tulip that is kind of closed and tight. It doesn't have petals that are kind of springing out from the center of the flower, unless it's been in a vase for a while. But truly, this technique is so versatile and will apply to so many different types of flowers. Next up, we have the first of 2 buds. I cannot express how important buds are to a floral composition. They give you strength visually where you need it to be balanced by some airiness, and they're small and compact and can really help visually lift up a big floppy bloom, and there's so many other ways, but let's get to the painting. Grab some clean water and I want you to make 2 shapes. Now these can be any shape, but essentially it's going to be like a short version of the petals we've been creating all along here. And then go ahead at the bottom of each of those and dab in your favorite color. I'm using a little bit of red. And then rinse your brush so you don't have too much paint on there, and then start to kind of move that paint around within that wet shape you just created. And as I move it around, I'm actually removing some of the paint. And you guessed it, I'm taking that darker mixture, adding a little bit of it to the bottom of each of those shapes. Now grab some green. We're going to add some stems and leaves and all the lovely things. Light touch here and creating just a little bit of a oval at the base of each, and then coming down from those eventually with just the tip of the brush, really light touch, and you've got yourself connecting stems. Now, I love to add these type of bud clusters in odd numbers. Definitely need a third one here, just double loading with some pink and fuchsia and using that curved edge of my brush to make a beautiful oval shape with a few little uneven edges along the top. Dab in some red at the bottom, and then you can integrate this easily with your existing stems from the other two buds. Using a little bit of lifting here to remove some of the color, and there you have it. This is such a lovely way to fill your composition, and you can change the size or the scale of these. You can make the stems more pointed or even more floppy, and it just gives you so many options with just a few simple changes. Now you'll notice I'm adding detail here, and I want to make the point as I do this. The paintings that I'm doing today are like single layer paintings, super loose, super modern watercolor style, but you can adapt these to any style, even super realistic, by adding more layers, more shadow, all the things. Today's lesson is really meant to kind of be your springboard for awesome composition content. Now, if you are curious what I might do to this first layer of these flowers next to build up more drama, intensity, more depth, you might want to watch this playlist here. But later, of course, because we've got the last two elements that are crucial to really upping your compositional game, and you don't want to miss them. Bud number 2, and these are not something that I could live without as an artist. I use them all the time, all different types of flowers. They can become pods, I'm just gonna stop. Let me show you how we do these. There's starting green here, friends, and we're going to make a really lazy, loosey-goosey circle with white left in the center. And the center is not a perfect circle. I've got some ins and outs, little bumps and divots happening. And with the tip of the brush, I'm accentuating those divots. I'm not rinsing my brush here, and I'm grabbing a little bit of blue, and I'm starting to draw again another lazy circle with the tip of my brush this time. Added a little bit of water there, and notice how the center that I'm leaving white is off center. And you can just continue to refine that shape. I added a little bit of dark green there into the wet bluish area, and that's nice for now. Now rinse that brush and get a little dot of pink right in the center of that first bud that you created. And then start to fill out from that dot into those divot areas that you created with the point of your brush when you were just using green at the beginning. And over here, I started with the pink dot on the left, created a tinier bud and just a little bit of green around it. Now a few leaves, press and lift, different pressure for some skinny leaves and more pressure for some thicker leaves. And friends, you have the most quintessential, gorgeous peony buds you can imagine. But again, these can come into your composition in so many ways. You could even apply this technique to some small oranges, some crab apples. Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love it. All right, I've got to know, which is your favorite compositional element so far? Is it the top down? Is it the 3/4? Is it the purely side view? Is it the first bud, the second bud? Or maybe it's going to be the one coming up. I can't wait to see or hear or read, because, head into comments and let me know. Now, I'm probably trying to read your mind again, but you're thinking, Chrissy, okay, this is all cool and these are fun, but how does it all come together? Stick around, because I'm going to show you, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how this actually works. Surprised because it's not as complicated as you're probably guessing it is. Okay, the last one and my favorite one, but remember friends, we're not done yet, because I got the big reveal of how to make this all work with a composition coming up. But filler, oh my gosh, I love fillers. They're that saving grace when you're at the end of a painting and you're so freaked out you're gonna ruin it. You know that you need to add something, but you don't know what. Yeah, it's usually a filler. Grab your favorite color and press and lift, press and lift. 3 strokes, 1 in the middle is the biggest, 2 smaller on either side. You're going to do a few of those around a smallish area of the page, right? Probably around a 2-inch wide, 3-inch tall type of space. Add a little water if you want to lighten things up as you go, but basically a 3-petaled little flutter of something on the page. And then you could start adding a few single-petaled, a few dots, and yeah, you're building a little filler spray of something. Now grab some green, just the tip of your brush, super light pressure, and you're going to start creating little stems that go from the base of each of those little clusters down to a central point underneath them. And just keep that going. The really key thing here is that central point that ties all of those little clusters together with thin, tall, wispy stems. And then of course, as you go, you can start to add some stems coming out from the left and the right like I'm doing here. Notice I'm not rinsing my brush too much because I got like a reddish green going on, but it's okay. Add a few press, drag, and lifts to give you some thicker, more substantial leaves in the mix. And then of course you can go in and start to add little teeny tiny leaves on some of those stems. Rinse your brush, add a few more little dots. Those are your last few bits of flower. And friends, look at what you got here. So good. You see why I love these? Okay, now tell me again, which of the 6 elements that I covered today are your favorite? And here we go about putting it all together. At the very beginning, we talked about, sketching being a cool thing, but what if you don't even know what to sketch? How to put it all together for it to feel balanced and make sense and be pleasing to the eye, right? Well, now you've got a little bit of a formula or a recipe, if you will. So as you watch me kind of roughly color in or watercolor in this sketch, you can see the elements that we've just painted start to kind of come to life on the page. You see that top-down flower right in the middle as my focal point. You see the 3/4 view flower that's there almost right above that focal point. You see the side view. You see both of the buds. And hopefully, friends, you see how this all works together when you have the perfect components to build your composition. Now you're likely still wondering, Christy, how in the world does this apply to other flowers? And I'm going to show you with this next video, 1 brush, 3 different types of flowers. Go get it. You're so ready for this. I'll see you over there. And it's time for some more happy painting.